Welcome to the 2025 Marywood Women's Basketball Team Preview presented by the Woodward. I'm Vincent Goldschmidt, and alongside me, head coach Tara Macciocco. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So let's get started. Last year was your first year back with the Pacers, and you had a pretty solid year, 13-14, very good at home, went 9-5. The road and neutral games not as favorable for you guys. So how do you try to find that balance for the success you had at home, but also try to find that on the road?
I mean, I think we made great strides toward the end of last year. Finishing the season, we went down to Immaculata, and I think lost by 25, 30 points. And then a week later, turned back around, and it was like a 3-point game at halftime. So we made some strides as the year went on, trying to figure out how to play on the road. Changing up, I think, what we're doing on the bus, how you're acting on the bus before the games, like doing some different things on the way to those games to get used to that. But I do think that it was going to take a while to try to develop some sort of culture and get everybody to understand the expectations and what it takes to play at that level and continue to play at that at a consistency. I think the biggest thing last year was we were very consistent at being inconsistent, and that's something that we're trying to focus in on this year, and that will help with the road games.
You mentioned Immaculata, one of the teams in the Atlantic East Conference. You have the two new members in Pratt and St. Elizabeth for the season. Conference play wasn't super favorable for you guys last year. You did make the playoffs, but you went 3-7 in the regular season. Did make it to the semifinals where you guys lost to Immaculata. But how do you try to find more success in those games against conference opponents?
Listen, we had some games that came down to the wire, and I think there were a couple there that could have went either way. We have to go back and look at some of the things, how we were preparing for those teams, some things we were doing at both ends of the floor, change our offense a little bit, change up how we were playing them, those teams defensively. Now I have a better understanding of how those teams play. I was out of it for a little bit, hadn't seen some of the Immaculata. I never saw Marymount. Gwinnett I was very familiar with. So I think having that year under the belt and kind of understand how to prepare for those teams a little bit better. But you have to go out and get better players too. And I think we did a good job this year of bringing in a group of players that are going to help us with that and that play at a different level and have a different mentality to mesh with our returners.
You mentioned that you went out and got players that you feel confident in, the 4 freshmen as well as the 2 Keystone transfers in Tamari and Anaya. Anaya especially, with her backing in her first couple years at Keystone, being a United East first team member last year. How do you feel she's going to mesh, and Tamari as well, how are they going to mesh coming into a new program, having had a couple years of college experience at a different program?
They are absolutely changing the way we're going to play. Tamari is so tough at 5'7" that like you could play her at any position on the floor. She rebounds the heck out of the ball, changes the way we could play defensively. We could be a little more aggressive with her on the court. Anaya is, I've never seen the type of player like Anaya. I've never coached a type of player like that. She's so crafty getting to the basket. She has a great handle. Both of them played totally out of position last year at Keystone. They were both playing post players. They're inside most of the time, defending the opposing team's centers, posting up most of the time. They're going to have a lot more freedom in our offense to be able to attack from their natural positions. Using Anaya at the point more this year, she could score, she could pass the ball, she could distribute the ball, she could finish through contact. She's going to be really tough to defend.
You mentioned how they're going to come into this offense, and there's going to be adjustment, there's going to be growing pains as every year is. One of the key losses from last year, Rachel McDonald, one of your better three-point shooters, and for a team that led the Atlantic East Conference in three-pointers made per game, how is the adjustment going to be for this year? Are you going to focus less on shooting threes, hope that someone else will step up? Where is that balance in that?
Yeah. It's a tough adjustment for me because I'm used to coaching three-point shooters. I love running flare screens, getting them coming off, being able to shoot those threes. I think it's just a matter of finding people to fill Rachel's shoes. I think Mia Bloom's playing a lot better. She's shooting the ball a lot better. She's shooting it with more confidence. She knows she has to step up a little bit and take some more shots. I think Julia McCullen, the freshman that's coming in, is going to eventually fill Rachel's shoes as much as she can. She plays very similar to Rachel, but can also attack a little bit off the dribble a little bit more. Maddie Labatch is starting to shoot the ball a little bit better too. So I think we'll find somebody to kind of fill those shooting shoes as the year goes on. But I think we are going to play a little bit differently too because we have so many people that could create off the dribble this year, which we haven't had in the past. It's going to change our style a little bit too.
Three-point shooting was one of your strengths. Rebounding wasn't as much. Ranked last in the conference last year. Now, you mentioned how gritty of a player Tamari is and, the additions that you brought in. how do you shift? How do you shift the focus for rebounding both on the offensive and defensive end?
I think just practicing it every day, like anything you do, right? The more you do it, the more confident you become doing it. I think making that a priority every day in practice, rebounding the ball, checking people out, blocking them out, making sure you're letting the ball hit the floor, then go get it. On the flip side of it, crashing as hard as you can so that you're working the defense as well. So I think just making it a priority this year to do a better job rebounding the ball. Because again, if you could defend and you could rebound, you could keep yourself in any game. We did an okay job defensively last year. I think we're going to be a little bit better this year doing that. If the rebounding comes along, I think we'll put ourselves in a position to be much more successful as the year goes on.
One more stat I have for you. Specific. Turnovers on the offensive side. You guys were best in the conference of that. Forcing turnovers was a different issue. So how do you make sure on the offensive end you're not, forcing mistakes, but on the defensive end you're creating a little more chaos?
Again, I think in practice, working that as much as you can. We have to be better defensively, and that's been a focus from day one this year. So we had those 8 practices. A lot of that work was defensive work prior to getting into our actual season. But I think focusing in on that on a daily basis. And then, we talk about it every day. Immaculata led the conference in defense points allowed. I think it was 52 points a game, somewhere around there. We talk about that every day, making sure that we're one of the top in the conference, and that's got to be one of our priorities and goals that we're working towards. Every game setting some sort of number that we have to hold teams to. The turnovers on the offensive end, I'm going to be okay with it, or at the start, because we are trying to play a different way. So you're going to have a lot of those turnovers. But on the flip side of it, we need to do a better job forcing teams into those turnovers.
Joining your coaching staff this year was Jason Hallman. Jason has a storied career here as a player for Marywood. How has that been, joining the coaching staff, especially because his play style was something that not many players on your team could necessarily relate with, but there are a few players that he could definitely teach up.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have somebody to be able to kind of take over the post end of the floor and work with our post players, being able to go back to the basket. But like you said, Jason liked to hang out outside that three-point line too. So working with them to be able to make them more confident in doing that. Chulo shoots threes now, and she's excited doing that. Allie shot, I think, maybe 10 or 12 of them last year. So I think him being able to kind of say to them, it's okay to do this. Him also working with them on handling the ball a little bit more too, because he did that as well. So I think he's giving them a little bit more confidence on that part of the offensive side of it. The defensive side of it, I told him on Saturday that he needs to get a little tougher and bring the pad out, start hitting them a little bit more, and not be afraid to do that. So hopefully he does that today.
So the last question I have for you. Season starts this week. Last year in the AC, going to the MAC next year. What are the goals you have for the season? For yourself as a coach, maybe for specific players, and for the team as a whole?
As a team, I think our goal has to be to finish in the top 2 or 3 in the conference, and that's, I think, a very realistic goal. We have a lot of pieces back, and we added some really good pieces. I think as long as we could get everybody to mesh together, that's a realistic goal for us. Player-wise, we have 2 players closing in on 1,000 points, which would be awesome to be able to get that for them. And I think send these seniors out with something to say, hey, we left our mark here. Whether that's a championship banner or that's like making strides towards it to go into a new conference. But I want them to be able to leave here and say that they made a big impact on the program.
All right, Coach, best of luck this season.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course. That's going to do it for the 2025 Marywood Women's Basketball Team Preview presented by the Woodward. Make sure to check out everything the Woodward has to offer by going to our website. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube. For the Woodward, I'm Vincent Goldschmidt.